And we are going live. So, hi everyone. I know you can't see me just yet. I'm out of frame, sorry. Unfortunately, Sarah has to work tonight. And so that means that there's no one in the bottom corner. You know what they say, when the cat's away? I'm just a big cat. I'm just a big mouse. I'm the mouse, yes, I'm the mouse. Okay, let's do that. So Sarah's not here. She has to work tonight so that she can have off for the MWTCA meet coming up this weekend. Speaking of which, those of you who are going to be there, I'm looking forward to doing actual meetup. We're going to be doing it on Friday, so this very Friday. We are going to be meeting at 5 p.m. in the hotel atrium. It's a huge, like 7-story, vast space, kind of cool. So that should be a lot of fun. But I am going to be there Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, so I'm looking forward to meeting any of you. Hoping that others can come. So tonight we are going to be doing the Q&A. We will be finishing up the joinery window next week, doing the last one. So tonight is just going to be the regular monthly Q&A. We do this on whichever Tuesday ends up on a teen. So this is the 15th, which is actually my father's birthday. So happy Father, Dad. Happy birthday, Dad. He's probably not watching right now because it's like, what, 1 a.m. in Albania, where he's at. So if you have any questions, go ahead and throw those in the chat, which is over there, I think. And if you can put question at the beginning or something big and bold so I can see it, because I'm trying to keep an eye on this as it scrolls by. If it goes down a ways and I haven't answered it, go ahead and throw it in there again and I'll see it. I'll try and get to a few of those. So throw anything in the chat and I will try and keep an eye on that. So those of you who are watching it recorded, I'm sorry I won't have all the questions with timestamps down below because normally Sarah can collate that. Yeah, that's one of the downsides. I'll do like having her here. So if you have any questions, throw those in the chat and we'll get to it. We had a couple early questions, and one of them is, what is my favorite hand plane? And usually it's whichever one is in my hand, but there are some hand planes that even when it's in my hand, I don't like it. That being said, I think I have to say, if I could use any hand plane, the one that I really like to use the most is the Veritas custom plane. This one is just, it is a pure joy to work with and use. Veritas has the ability to take a traditional plane and throw it out the window and kind of redefine and redesign things. So the casting is incredibly thick here in the middle and then tapers out. Very, very thick walls, good heavy on it. Adjustable mouth, a really nice Norris adjuster. This thing is incredibly tight and very, very accurate. I can really dial it in with that. Just little things on how the cap iron holds on, and it has this set in here so it always comes back to the same point. It has set screws on the side that lock it side to side, so when I put it back in, I know I'm going to be putting it back in the exact same spot. There's very little adjustment that needs to go in to make this fit upright. This is just a really well thought out plane. Very, very nice. You can actually, one of the things you can adjust, you can choose the iron you want in it, the steel you want. You can choose the type of front knob. You can choose the type of tote. You can choose the bed angle of the frog. You can actually get multiple frogs. Actually, I think I have one. Yeah, I've got this one in here. This is the 55 degree. I've got the 45 degree frog in there right now. And you can get it all the way down to 30 degrees and all the way up to 60 degrees, I think. And one of the cool things, it has this little stop screw in here. So you can set that so when you open and close the mouth and you accidentally slide the mouth back, it hits this stop screw rather than hitting the blade. So you're not damaging your blade if you accidentally slide the mouth back too much. You're actually running into that stop screw, which I really like. Just a lot of really nice things in it. That's one of the reasons why I love this. The downside to it is incredibly expensive. I've purchased 4 cars that cost less than this hand plane. But you know, you get what you pay for. But if I had to buy any particular hand plane, that would be the one. So that's just why I like it. Let's see what. Driving by Rockford right now. Well, hey, Michael. Yeah, no, I'm in McChesney Park, so if the 173 exit on I-90 is where I'm at. Let's see, are there any questions here? Dr. Kahikama. Sorry, I just totally butchered that one. How are the new chisels working out? Yes, the shaft chisels. And I know I was making fun of the name in the video that I put out, as well as the file chisels. I know how they're pronounced. Well, I know how Germans and Dutch people would pronounce them. Though I've talked to people at the file company, and they have given me actually like 3 or 4 different pronunciations, which is kind of funny. Normally these are pronounced shaft, like shaft without the T, which is actually the Dutch word for hand plane. Kind of an interesting thing. But I always like just making fun of it, because that's part of what Wood by Right does, because we make fun of things and stick our foot in our mouth and have a lot of fun with it. But yeah, I've been playing with these a little bit. I haven't had a whole lot of time, because I just got them a little less than a week ago. And so I did a video going through these. These are, it's $100, $99, comes with the full set of 12 and the roll-up case, which is just crazy cheap. And they are not the best quality in the world. There's a few things on them. They're just a little bit nitpicky-ish. So I played with them initially to see how, because they claim to be sharp out of the box. A couple of them were really close to it. Several of them were a long ways away from it. So you're not going to get the same high quality right out of the box sharp, but you're going to end up sharpening them, so that's just not a huge thing to worry about. I haven't had a whole lot of time to play that. I probably have only had about 2 hours or so of carving with them. But as I do some carving in the future, I'm going to be playing with these more. I've now only had them for about a week. And honestly, for the price, they're really, really good. You're going to have to sharpen them off the bat. But for $8 a chisel, I'm surprised I don't have to take them to the grinder. Most of them I can just do it on my plates right there and be golden in just a few minutes. So they're pretty good. And so far the feel of them is very good. I'm not a huge fan of the shellacky finish. I'd rather a more raw wood like file does. But that's more or less a personal taste. So. If you have a question, if you can put like question or something like that at the beginning so I can see it. James Lentner, when will you be making another wooden hand plane that you haven't made yet? I don't know. Are there any that I haven't made? I've made a couple jacks. I've made a couple smoothers, made some molding planes, made router planes, made shoulder planes. I haven't made a small block. Well, no, I did make a small block plane a long time ago. I made a transitional plane, made a low angle plane. I thought about making a compass plane. That would be fun, a wooden compass plane. I need to collab with a metalworking channel. But yeah, that'd be interesting to make. But yeah, if you have something you'd like to see me make, maybe I'll do another. I have thought about doing another smoothing video, smoother, because I haven't done one of those in a few years, and you can really make those look pretty. So I might be doing that again sometime. We'll see. Joel K. Do I need a jointer plane if I'm going to be doing hand tool only projects? No. That's one of the fun things about, you don't need a number 7, number 8 big plane. The benefit with this is that because it's long enough, if you have a valley, the toe will sit on something and the heel will sit on something, and the valley goes down where the mouth doesn't hit it. So as the plane goes forward, it only hits the high points. So as it goes forward to that valley it was sitting on, it'll shave a little bit off of that. And you take it back, it'll shave a little bit off the beginning. So the nice thing about this is this will tell you when it's flat, or it will tell you when it's no longer concave. You can still get a shaving on a convex surface. So that's why you usually take out shavings from the middle of the board first, and then you take shavings from one end to the other. And that'll let you know it's flat. And this will, with one tool, will flatten an edge perfectly. However, you can joint with just a number 4, and it's really not that much different. The goal is, though, you only hit the high spots. So you have to know where are those high spots. And so for that, you grab a straight edge. Well, that's nice. there goes my turning saw. So you can set a straight edge on there, and it can be a ruler, it can be a board that you've just eyeballed down and gone straight. And you can set that on there and mark where is it touching the board. Those are the high spots. Then you come back through and you just hit those high spots. Then you put the board back on there and you check it again, you mark those. And then you just come through and you just hit those high spots. Until you can put the board on there and it's contacting all the way along, then you get one clean shaving from one end to the other. And you can joint the board with just a number 4. It's just you need another tool to tell you it's flat. That's where this is. Now the other question is, do I need a jointer? And generally the rule of thumb is, if the board is twice as long as the bed of the plane, then you can joint it. So if this is 9 inches long, and I'm jointing a board that's 18 inches long, I don't even need a straight edge. This will tell me that it's flat enough. But if I'm doing something that is 4 foot long, then I'm probably going to want a jointer to tell me that it's flat. But if you're just doing a lot of small things in like the 2 foot range, then a number 4 or a number 5 are all you need. You don't need a jointer to joint and flatten boards that are 2 to 3 foot long. That's kind of overkill. So, good question. Let's see. The poor man. So I made a mistake and I made one part of my bench top a 1/2 inch thin. It's only 4.5 inches section. That won't make a big difference if I put it in the inside. Sorry, man, you're going to have to rephrase that one. I don't understand the question. If it's 4.5 inches, yeah, I don't know what you're saying. Sorry. Question from A2 Wood Art. Alex. Oh, hey, Alex. Oh, there's the icon I see. Yeah, I get to know people by their Facebook, their YouTube icons, and it's always funny if there's a different icon on different socials, and I'm then trying to connect. Are you this person or that person? I know people by their icons. So if you meet me in person, bring a picture of your icon and be like, "Oh yeah, hi." Did you only strop the chisels, or also went to the stones for the ones were really bad? For these ones, there were a couple that I only had to strop. They were just ever so slightly out of what I would consider sharp. Most of them I had to take back to at least the fine stone. A couple of them I had to take back to the medium stone, and there was one in there that I had to take all the way back to the coarse stone to get it shaped and sharpened. But with the diamonds, they cut pretty quickly, and there's small surfaces, so it's not as big a deal. But yeah, I had to sharpen them a bit more. Sorry, really dry mouth. This last weekend, I was helping out at a race, an all-night ultra-marathon 100-mile race. And so I was still getting over that. Yeah, not much sleep. Anthony Lucivero. Sorry, Anthony, I'm name butcher. Do you have experience with Arkansas stones for sharpening, in particular black hard stones and Dan's wet stones? It's supposed to be amazing, but wanted your thoughts on it. I have done a decent amount with natural stones, Arkansas stones. I don't like them. It's just a personal preference. They require a little bit more work. You have to keep them flat. They're a bit of a mess. They're just not my type of thing. The thing about them is that they are, especially when you get into the crazy high grits, the 12,000, 16,000, 20,000 grit, the really hard stones, you can get a gorgeous polish right off the stone, and especially if you have a jig, you can get this perfectly flat bevel, and they feel good. And if you're into it for the feel good, then they are a lot of fun. But they're going to take more work. Just understand, more work in comparison to diamonds. They don't cut quite as fast as diamonds do, but they are a lot of fun, and you get that gorgeous polish off of them. Few things feel as good. Do they get any sharper? No. Does this get any sharper? No. It all depends on your technique and what you're using. But a strop will do just as good. Just won't give you that gorgeous, perfect bevel, flat surface, which functionally isn't that important. Really isn't important at all. But if it's something you like, it's something you want to have that experience playing with them, then they're very fun. But for me, most of the time, I just want to get through the sharpening and get back to the wood curls, because that's what I find fun. From Perez Hernandez, what kind of carving can I do with just a V-Gouge? I want to start on some carving, but I'm not sure what to buy first. You can do a lot of surface carving. Most of the carving that I've done, I gotta find pieces on here. One, and do you have carving in? No, you don't. This one does. Oh, that was a bench chisel and a V-tool. Here, that one had some V-tool work. Most of the carving I do is with just a V-tool. So here is an old chisel plane that I made a while ago. This is a fun one. I want to redo this one sometime, and I got to pull that off. Come on, let me out. There we go. Or maybe not. There it goes. This is a block plane iron, and the bed of this has magnets embedded into it, and a curve back there they fit into, and it's then turned into a chisel plane, and it's a really fun chisel plane because the flat of this then becomes the bed surface. And so you can get a really nice flat surface as long as this is perfectly flat. And so I did, just simple little things like that can add a lot to a piece just done with the V-tool. Again, simple little things like that can be done with a V-tool. But if you want to get something a little bit more, this, you can do the simple way of just doing with a V-tool and that, or then you can come in with a bench chisel and remove this area and do the relief carving into it. So with a bench chisel and a V-tool, you can do something like that. I'd probably say 85 to 90% of the carving I do, which is just this line carving in the surface, I find it to add a lot of detail very quickly, very efficiently, and bring something up to be that little bit better. Most of that is just a V-tool. And I even have some videos showing how to do that with just a bench chisel. But with a bench chisel and a V-tool, you can get a lot done. Yeah, that's what I like. Usually what I'm going to tell people is bench chisel and V-tool. That'll get you going, and that'll do a lot of line carving, a lot of surface carving, and the pattern drawing. Those are phenomenal. Letters. And then the next thing is a skew chisel, and that will allow you to do the chip carving and allowing you to get the geometric shapes. And then from that point on, if you're wanting to actually carve rounded shapes with gouges, then you buy the gouge to match the work you want to do. Because you can buy a whole set of gouges, but I can guarantee you that half of these gouges I won't use for years. I might use 2 or 3 of these gouges in the next year, maybe, but they won't fit exactly what I want. Usually I'm going to get a gouge to fit the radius of what I want to carve. And that way you're not buying the whole set and only using a few out of it. So usually that's the order I tell people. V-tool, bench chisel, then a skew, and then buy the gouges you need for the project you want as you need them. So, questions. I recently tried beavercraft knives. I like how they cut, but then I bent the tips on 2 to 3 of the knives. Oh, that's not a question, sorry. What are your thoughts on pole saws? Japanese saws. This is a great way to get into arguments. Which one is better? Western or Japanese? There is no better. They're just 2 different methods. They're 2 different ways of doing it, and they will both do the exact same work. One is not more efficient than the other. One isn't a better batting mechanic than the other, and you'll hear those arguments all over the place. They're total phooey. One is not better than the other. One is not easier to use than the other. They both have their quirks. But the big difference between them is that when you're pulling, if you're in the work, the leading tooth, the tooth that is doing the cutting, is on the opposite side. So because the first tooth to make contact is on the other side of the board from you, that's the tooth that's going to do the steering. So you have to put a lot more force into this to make it turn. On the opposite, with a Western saw, the leading tooth is on your side of the board, meaning that any little force you put on this is going to make it turn. Now that makes it sound like this is a lot easier, but in reality, when you're first learning, that makes this a lot easier, because the problem that 99% of new people have is that they overcorrect the saw and they start going all over the place. And so if you're using a Western saw, any little movement, any gripping of the saw is going to cause it to start to veer. And over controlling the saw is the problem. With a Japanese saw, once you set it up on the line, if your line is true at the beginning, it will continue to be true. The downside to it is, if it's not true at the beginning, or if the saw has set that's slightly out and it starts to curve, it takes a lot of force to bring it back onto the line, and you really have to put some force into this to correct it. With a Western saw, once you learn how to use it and you're not over controlling it, you're not really gripping the saw, you have a very loose connection on here, you can learn to just put a little bit of tweaking in, a little bit this way, a little bit that way. And you have a lot more control of this, but you have to have the skill to control it. And so this takes a lot more skill right off the bat to get good practice out of it. This doesn't take as much skill to learn. And so that's why a lot of beginners really love a Japanese saw. They can do some really, really nice work. Everything else about, how clean a cut do you get, how easy is it to move, how fast does it cut, that is phooey. That doesn't matter, because all that is determined by is the last person to sharpen the saw. And any saw will do better than any other, or will do exactly the same dependent upon how well is the tooth sharpened. And so, if it gets dull, then it's going to be a horrible saw. Or if it was sharpened poorly, it's going to be a horrible saw. But if it's sharpened well, and this is sharpened well, they're going to perform just about the same. So in the end, there really is no big difference. It comes down to a personal style. Generally, I find that having a bench up at the height I have mine, I find it a little bit more pleasing to have the control and use of a Western saw. But that's just a personal taste. I know a lot of people who feel the exact same way about a Japanese saw, so it's completely up to you. So, looking for other questions here. So if I haven't gotten to your question, it's gone up in the chat. Go ahead and post it down below. If you can put question or something like that at the beginning so I can actually see it, because my wife isn't here, I got to actually read through them. A2 Wood Art from Tommy Roberts. Have you ever tried Beavercraft carving tools? I've got a hook knife and a gouge, and they're decent steel handles. And their decent steel handles are bad, but big enough you can reshape them. I have one Beavercraft carving knife. I really like it. Good tools. I haven't had a whole lot of experience with them, so I really can't tell you on that. But from what I've heard, yeah, good stuff. Yeah, when it comes to carving tool handles, that is a very personal question. Because what I find comfortable is what someone else is not going to find comfortable. And what someone else finds comfortable, I'm going to look and go, you want to hold that? And so everyone's a little bit different. So, and especially when it comes to like chisel handles. That's one of the things I tell people, the most important thing about the chisel is not the quality of the steel. The quality of the steel is way down the list. The most important thing is how comfortable is it? How balanced is it? How does it feel in your hand? And those are questions that are going to be very different for different people. So, yeah, the comfort is very important. Anthony Lucivero. What are your thoughts on Japanese white steel chisels? Worth the cost? Do they hold an edge much better than PMV11? From what I have tested and what I have seen, no, they're not worth the cost at all in any way, shape, or form. There's a lot of myth and mystique and ooh about them, and when you spend that money, you will be convinced that they work better. they aren't any better. It's a mental game. If you spend that much money on something, you get to the point where you want to spend that much money on it, then it will make you feel better, and that's what's most important. And that's one of the things, like the really, really high-end tools where you spend a crazy amount of money on it. You're not getting a better tool. You are not getting something that will function better. You are not getting something that will give you better shavings. You are getting something that makes you feel good. And when you're holding a tool that you really like, you're holding a tool that makes you feel good, you're going to often do better work because you're spending more time thinking about what you're doing. You're spending more time enjoying what you're doing. And that is the big difference. And especially with a lot of the Japanese mystique, yeah, it's just that. I'm not saying that Japanese woodworkers aren't great woodworkers. They're fantastic woodworkers. But just like anyone else, they're humans. And the products they make are just a different way of doing the same thing. So I know that'll create a lot of arguments, but that's the way it is. Alan, hey, thanks for the super chat. What will your next tool build? Love the technique builds like the current project. Or if you're talking about lives, I don't know what the next live is going to be. We're going to be finishing up the joinery window, and then the first Tuesday in July, I'm actually going to be trying out a new format of interviewing another woodworker. We're going to have Rob Cosman on. But then after that, I haven't quite decided what I want to do. I'm thinking about doing another where I want to actually build something. And one of the things I'm thinking about doing is doing the smoothing plane and actually doing a really nice jointed bottom smoothing plane. So we'll see. That might end up being a fun live. Oh, that's right. That popped out. But yeah, I don't know. I do have, we are in the middle of doing a tool restoration on this, which is basically going to be a tool build of redoing the whole thing, but this is going to be a huge collaboration with 5 other channels around the world. That'll be a lot of fun, so sneak peek of what I'm working on. Well, here was the other one there, just the sneak peek. So thanks, Alan. I don't have a mom joke for rather obvious reasons, otherwise I'd give you one. Sorry. Let's see, Matt Tommen. Will you make a guitar? Someday I want to make a guitar. I want to do a good classical acoustic guitar. Someday. I also want to do a boat someday. I think that would be a fantastic build. Yeah, but not today. Yeah. No, a guitar is coming, but I have no idea when. Years in the future. Kevin O'Connor, what do you have in your first aid kit in the shop? Actually, I don't have a first aid kit in my shop. Yeah, actually, I don't have any first aid kit in my shop. I should probably fix that. Though, I mean, my bathroom with all my first aid stuff is not too far away, so it's not a huge deal. I mean, if I really need to, I've got several towels I would press on things and walk up to the bathroom and spread blood as we go. But usually with hand tools, the most severe thing I've got is I cut my thumb here. Here, let me see if you can see this. I've got a scar running across here where I had an 1.5 inch chisel jab me like that. The chisel was rolling off the bench and I went to catch it, but my hand went down faster than the chisel did and it right into my hand. And I probably could have gotten stitches, but I actually just taped it back over and held it in place for a while, and it worked out pretty well. But yeah, if I did have, I would probably just have medical tape, gauze, and Band-Aids. Maybe some Neosporin. I don't think I would have anything else in there. So, interesting. I probably should have one in here. Jesse Nunes? Is it frowned upon to have sapwood in your furniture projects? Ooh, there's a good argument. It depends on the wood It depends on how it's being used. It depends on the particular sapwood. It depends on the time of year that the tree was cut. If it was cut in the spring and the sap is running really strong, that sapwood can be very punky. If it's cut in the winter, when the sap isn't running, the sapwood may just be just as solid as the rest. I, for the most part, in most applications, in most woods, do not have a problem with using sapwood. But that being said, there are things you want to take into consideration. Just feeling the wood, knowing the type of wood and how it's connected and how soft it is. The most common thing is the coloring change. Like particularly when it comes to walnut, I have a spot on my bench where I've got a big chunk of sapwood in there. Let me see if I can show this out here. Focus. Yeah, I've got this chunk of sapwood out here, and I've got a few other spots where the sapwood has come through. And I really like that with walnut because it provides its own beautiful contrast, because the sapwood can be almost the same color as maple, whereas the dark wood is incredibly dark. So it's a very personal thing, but you really got to feel it and make sure that the sap is still solid, it's connected. Sometimes you'll get a delamination between the sapwood and the deadwood. But most of the time it's fairly decent. So. Oh, Andy, hey, thanks for the super chat, man. Do you have a rec for a frame saw kit? Do I have a rec for? Oh, recommendation. Sorry. Yes, Blackburn Toolworks. This is the same guy that I have my kit, and I've made a couple others for other people. Yeah, I love his stuff. He actually has 3 different sizes you can get. So you can get the 24-inch, the 36, and the 48. Actually, I think there's slightly different sizes than that, but it's like 2 foot, 3 foot, 4 foot. For one person, I really like the 3 foot size. It's that nice stroke. It's about all you get. If you're going to be doing larger, wider boards, like you want to resaw a foot or more, then you're probably going to want to get the 4 foot version. It gives you a little bit longer stroke. So it's kind of one of those things depending upon your saw. And he has a lot of other options you can pick through, and I like options. Great guy to work with. I've been out to Isaac's shop a couple times. But yes, that is the one I like the most, just because I like working with him and he has the options. Next on my list is probably the Blackburn, the Bad Axe Toolworks. They have a kit, and you can actually buy a full saw from them, or at least you could last time I looked. I really like theirs as well. Very, very good quality stuff. And both of them also have a kerfing saw that you can get as well to match it. I really like the kerfing saw from Blackburn Toolworks. His has these really deep gullets that make it great, so it doesn't clog up as much. The one from Bad Axe, they're not quite as deep, and they tend to clog up a little bit more. But yeah. Poor man, clarification. One of my 5 sections for my bench top is a 1/2 inch thinner than the others. If I put it in the center when I glue it together, will it be fine? Oh, I see what you're saying. So most of your bench is like 4.5, 4.5, and then the middle one would be 4 inches. Yeah, that'd be perfectly fine. 4 inches is plenty thick enough to get a good gluing surface. My bench top is about, I think it's 4.5, but the boards vary underneath. I mean, all of my boards are at different lengths and different heights underneath. The bottom of this is not flat at all. It is rather wild. Here, let me actually show you. Because this is one of these fun things that I like to show people when they come, because it is out of focus. Here. So there's the underside of my bench, and it is in no way flat at all. You can still see the glue from the lamb up, and they are differing in heights up to a 1/2 inch. So yeah. But yeah, it won't make any difference at all for functionality or usability. So go for it. Especially if it's the one in the middle and the outside ones are the same, you're golden. Sorry, reading down through. No first aid kit, shame. Yeah, I know. But I mean, honestly, the bathroom with all this stuff is not too far away. So it's the nice thing about working in your basement is you're right next to everything else. I do have 2 different fire extinguishers in the shop. 1 fire extinguisher in the kitchen, 2 in the garage. So we're good on that, but it's first aid, yeah. I got towels and duct tape. That's all I need. I don't think Old Time Woodworking Factory would use sapwood. Of course, they had trees big enough that they can. Yeah, well, actually, you will find sapwood in a lot of old furniture, but you won't see it in show faces. You will see it in like drawer sides. You'll see it in back panels. You'll see it in places where cheaper wood would have been used. You wouldn't see it in any of the faces you would naturally see on surfaces because it just doesn't look as good. It doesn't have that natural clean feeling, smooth, straight grain. But yes, sapwood in different situations in different places was used all throughout historical woodworking, and you'll find it all over the place. Actually, it was showing, I was in, what's the name of that? Albert Museum in London. Victoria and Albert, the V&A. And they have this really, really cool furniture exhibit. It is absolutely fascinating, and they have a lot of the pieces that are deconstructed, so you can actually see the joinery and how they go together. I could have spent all day in that exhibit. It was a lot of fun. If you go back 2 years, a little over 2 years ago when I was there, I had a whole lot in my Instagram for that. And even there, in some of these really high-class, very expensive pieces of furniture, you'd see things like that. Does the kerfing saw help get the cut started with the frame saw? Would you say it's necessary? This is from Andy. So when I first got into hand tools, I bought my kerfing saw kit, and I bought my kerfing plane kit and my kerfing saw, and then the frame kit. And I was having a lot of problem keeping it on the line. And this does help start the cut. It doesn't help keep it in the cut very well, because once the saw starts to wander, the saw will get its own, and it doesn't matter how much kerf you have on the front and back of it. It will jump out of that kerf. However, it helps a little bit. The problem is it takes almost as long to make the kerf as it does to resaw the board. And once you get decent with it and you get the skill down needed to track well, and your saw is tuned up well, it doesn't save you any time. This will actually cost you time. It will take far more to make the kerf and then to cut it than it will to just cut it. The most important things are, number one, that your blade is true. You want to make sure that when you tighten it up, there's no twist in the blade. And so I'm always, when I'm tightening it up, I'm eyeballing down the blade and making sure it's right on there. You'll see some people will actually put it on there, and they'll put winding sticks on the blade and make sure there isn't any twist in there. And that way you can actually line it up with the winding sticks. Number two, this has got to be incredibly tight. I mean, if you're not getting a screwdriver on this eye and cranking it down with a significant amount of force, then your blade isn't going to have the strength it needs to stand up inside the cut. And what you'll notice is that when you're cutting down it, you'll be perfectly on your line on your side of the board. You go around to the other side of the board, and it's perfectly on its line. And then when you open it up, it's bowed inside the cut. And that is caused by the blade not being tight enough. And so what happens is when you push on it, the blade will compress. And as it compresses, it has to bow out one way or the other, and it will start to put more pressure on one side of the cut or the other, and that will slowly exaggerate until you get this really big cup surface inside. So it's usually because the blade isn't tight enough. The next problem you're going to have is that more set is sticking out on one side or the other, so it tends to curve in the same direction every time. And so you can fix that by stoning the saw, and I've got a whole video on stoning the saw as well. But to make simple things, if you're first getting started and you're having a lot of problem with it and you want to guarantee you get a good cut, this will help you. It is not the fix-all. It does not guarantee a good cut. It does not guarantee straight, clean cuts, but it will help. It will be nice. It will be a slight benefit, but it will cost you time. So just be warned, this isn't faster, but it does feel good. So, hello from Delavan, Wisconsin. Hey, Michael. Not too far away. Are you going to be at the MWTCA meet this weekend? Looking forward to meeting a few people. So for those of you who are tuning in, this weekend is the MWTCA National Tool Meet. It is the largest tool meet in the entire world by far. It is just mind-blowing. I mean, imagine a basketball court, and that basketball court is completely covered in tables. And on every one of those tables and underneath every one of those tables are completely covered in antique hand tools for sale. Underneath all the tables are buckets of antique hand tools for sale. And you will see people who have whole totes of chisels, $10 a piece, $20 a piece, $5 a piece. On Thursday, there's the tailgate sale. So out in the parking lot, everyone backs their truck up in their minivan and they're selling tools out of their vehicles. On Friday and Saturday, it goes inside and it is a huge, huge tool sale. About 60% of the tools I own come from an MWTCA meet. Then Friday at 5 p.m., we're actually going to be doing a meet in the hotel. We're going to be doing a Wood by Right hangout. It'll be in the atrium. It's a huge atrium space. So 5 p.m. this Friday, we will be hanging out there. If you want to see more information on it, go to mwtca.org. You do have to be a member to get in, and so you would have to pay the membership fee plus the entrance fee. You can pay for just Saturday if you're a member, but by the time you get to Saturday, a lot of the tools have been picked through, so it's usually better to come earlier, but it is well worth it. Not just for buying tools. If you're coming for just buying tools, then you're coming for the wrong reason. You learn there. It is the biggest source of information on antique hand tools in the world. You can walk up to every single table and pick up something and say, what is that? I've never seen that before. And the guy's like, oh, I've got the explanation for this. And he talks through the history of it and where it came about and who designed it. And you learn about this particular function of the tool. And you walk to the next table and you're like, oh, I've never seen that before. What is that? And then you'll have you learn so much. It's absolutely incredible. And it's been over a year and a half since we've been able to have one, so I'm really excited to get back to an MWTCA meet, in case you can't tell. Oh, thanks for the super chat. This is Tiny Workshop. Thanks. Can I use my holdfast with my bench dog holes, or will they get stretched out? Yes, yeah, go ahead and use the holdfast. All of my, I don't have specific holdfast holes. All of my holes are bench dog holes. And so if you're in like a pine bench top or Douglas fir or something like that, they will start to stretch out a little bit, and so your dogs may end up having a little bit of wobble in them, but not much. It's not much. If you have a 3/4 inch holdfast and 3/4 inch dogs and drive a 3/4 inch hole, when you first get them in, they'll be a little bit tight. That's what you want them to be. You want them to be something you pound in and out. But over time, that will weaken out a little bit, and the fibers will all compress, and it'll be just the way you want it. But yes, all of my dog holes are also used for holdfasts, so do not worry about that at all. Let's see what questions we have. What is most of your bench top made of? This is from Brian McGuire. I actually have a whole series on making this bench. My bench top is made out of white oak, except for the last piece on front and back. Those are made out of walnut. And then my jaws on the end are also made out of walnut. My chops for my leg vices are made out of cherry, but the main surface is white oak. Why white oak? Because I like it. If I had to pick my perfect wood for a bench top, it would probably be soft maple. Something like a red maple or maybe a black maple, but something around that hardness. Because it's soft enough that it will dent rather than your work denting, but yet it's still hard enough and solid enough. It's got a good bounce to it. Though I don't think I will ever make a bench that's not white oak, because it is so pleasing to me to look at the grain and the color differences and the character in this bench top. It is just absolutely pleasing to me, and that's the most important thing to me. Is when I look at this, it makes me happy, and so that's why white oak is what I choose, because white oak pleases me, for we are the knights of the white oak. But yeah, if you want to see that, I have a whole series on making it. I'm going through all the steps, each one, installation of each of the vices, yeah, it was a while ago, but it's on there. So, yeah, my saw is stoned. Mike Evans, any uses for kerfing saw besides resawing? Yes. Historically, well, it's kind of new to call this a kerfing saw. Most of the time, it's called a rabbet saw. And the reason being is a rabbet is cutting a corner out of a board. And so you cut down one side and you cut the other side and you remove this piece out of the corner. And so you can set the fence up to cut in a certain distance, and then you'd set the fence to cut down a certain distance, and you could make those cuts move and remove a stick out of there rather than planing it out. And so it was a way of saving lumber, of being able to take that stick out rather than planing it all the way into shavings. So yeah, you would also hear them called rabbet saws, rebate saws if you're from England. And that's actually what Blackburn Toolworks calls it on his site. So that is a fairly common use for them. I haven't done it much because I haven't done a whole lot of rabbets, but it is something that comes out from time to time. What likes do for your channel? At Tom, what likes? Oh, what do likes do? It just helps out the algorithm. The more likes on the channel, the more YouTube says, ooh, people like this. Maybe I should show it to other people. So if you like a video, then like it. Hit that little thumbs up button. It does help out the channel and says, if you like it, then other people might like it. So yes, please like it. Like, comment, share, subscribe. That really does help out the channel. Sorry, I should start it. Repeat question. Which tools you think you would buy at MWTCA? I've gotten to the point where I don't have many tools on my, I'm looking for that list. There are very few things. One of the things I do collect is dusty planes. I collect dusty planes. This thing, it's a, come on, James. I can't remember the name of it. Total mind blank. It makes these really cool curls that come out in a stick, used for lighting candles. I can't remember what it's called. Total mind blank. But I collect them. I don't know what they're called, but I collect them. Oh, that's good. I can't remember for the life of me. Yeah. So if I see an interesting one of those, I'll probably get it. Stanley used to make one that hooks on the edge of a bench top and it actually is up, and you run the work over it rather than running it over the work. I'd like to get one of those one of these days, but I haven't found one yet. Spill plane, yes, thank you, spill plane, yes. Yeah, I've done quite a few videos on spill planes. I've made 3 or 4 of them and done several showing how they work, but I can't remember the name of it. So if I see an interesting spill plane, I'll probably pick it up. But most of the time when I'm looking for tools, I'm looking for something that's interesting that I can make a video on. I have all the tools I need. I have more tools than I ever need. So I'm looking for things that I can do something with for the channel. So my list is very different because I really don't need any other tools. I don't think anyone ever really needs any other tools, but every now and then I see something like, ooh, yeah, I want that. I want that a lot. I'll spend a lot of money on that. We'll see. 49, we got about 10 minutes left, so I probably got enough time for another 5 or 6 questions, so go ahead and throw those in there. CA glue inside of dog holes reduces the strength of the hole walls. I don't think it will reduce the strength, but it can make them, it can smooth them out so that they have less friction, so it's not as good for holdfasts. You actually want to have rough walls. It will hold on to the holdfast a little bit better, a little bit more friction. Yeah. How did you first get into woodworking? My father had a hobby of woodworking. From about the time I was about 5 years old, I would follow him into the workshop when he actually first got into woodworking. He had a friend who had a shop that was incredible. Dedicated routers to specific router bits and table saws and a huge planer, a huge jointer, all the tools you could want. And so I followed my father around in there, and when we moved, he started building a shop, and so I was all power tools. We had a set of chisels, but never used them. They were never sharp enough to do anything with, and never really understood why anyone would want a chisel or a plane. All power tools for years and years. When I got married, I built my own shop. I had a whole set of power tools, planer, joiner, bandsaw, table saw, the whole 9 yards. And this is all power tools. But then we started moving again and again and again and again. And every time we moved, I sold off more tools, and we were in a smaller space and a smaller space and a smaller space. And the last one we were at, we had no space for a shop. I needed some money. I sold all my tools, and I just said, oh, I guess I'm done woodworking. But then we moved into this house, and I became a stay-at-home dad. So I had a small space in the basement. It was about 8 foot by 10 foot-ish. I was a stay-at-home dad, so I needed something that was quiet, something I wouldn't mind the kids coming into the shop with. At the time, they were, like 2, 3, and 4. Something that isn't going to make a lot of noise, something I can do in a small space, and I ran into the idea of all hand tool woodworking. And so from that point on, I got to relearn woodworking. It's all the same things. You do it in the same way, but you do it with different techniques and different ways to get there. And you start to work with the wood a lot more, and so it was a lot of joy just to relearn woodworking. So if you go back and look at my earliest videos, this channel, Wood by Right, is the whole following of my hand tool journey. So literally from my first hand plane, I bought a hand plane at a, where did I buy that one? It was a garage sale, I think. I brought it home, I was like, whoa, look, here's my first hand plane. Let's start restoring this thing. And so my whole channel is following my hand tool journey. So if you want to see all the way back to the beginning of hand tools, you can do that. But actual woodworking has been all my life, so that's a little bit different. What's really in that bottle of water? It's cranberry juice. Really, really dry throat tonight. Best hand plane Stanley type. Ooh, that is the fighting words right there. For me, I like about the Type 12. I think that's about the point at which all the bells and whistles that I like are there, and they haven't started adding and subtracting things that I didn't like. So for me, that's about my favorite, is around Type 12. It doesn't make it any better, but that's just my favorite. Yeah. That's a great way to start some arguments, though. More questions. Speaking of high-end tools, the multi-$1,000 infill planes, what you think about the compared to regular old smoothers? Yeah, so you start talking about things like the Sauer and Steiner planes. Oh my word, those feel amazing. They are the most solid, beautiful things in the world, and when you get them tuned in just right and they zing across the wood, and there's just a feeling to them. There's no vibration in them at all. Gorgeous, gorgeous planes. They cost as much as some houses, but oh, they're worth it. Do they work any better than these? No. Will they get a shaving much better than anything here? No. Will they improve your woodworking? No. But they will increase the amount of fun, especially if you spend that much time into it. You will enjoy what you're doing. And when you get to the point where you're wanting to look at one of those as something you want to use, you will have developed in your woodworking at that point that you will appreciate it and you will understand how it works. Are they a better tool as in functional? No. Are they a better tool as in fit and finish? Yes. And they're worth it to the type of person who's looking for that feel and that aesthetic of the woodworking. And someday maybe, but not today. I think I'll buy a Stanley #1 before I paint it pink. Which circular plane is the most user-friendly, number 20 or the number 113? Personally, I prefer the 113. I like the later model 113s just because they feel a little bit better. That's way out of focus. Come on, focus, focus, focus. There we go. The handle feels good. They're just a little more ergonomic. They have the standard style in there. The older ones that have the side knobs, stay away from these. They do not work as well. There's a reason that Stanley switched over to this. I mean, it may look a little bit cooler. Now that being said, the 20 will do just fine. It's just not as comfortable. But the 20s tend to be a lot cheaper. So if you're looking for that, that is probably the way to go. They will both do the exact same thing. The 20 is probably a little bit easier to set up, though it's just not quite as comfortable to hold. So in the end, it just kind of comes down to personal preference. But the 20 is usually a little bit cheaper. I just ordered a frame saw from Blackburn Toolworks. He's really blacked up 8 to 12 weeks per his website. Yeah, especially this last year, there has been a huge run on hand tools. Lots of people wanting to pick up the project during COVID. So there have been a lot of sales, but that's slowing down a lot right now. So a lot of makers should be able to catch up here soon. How do I know what groove and tongue size is for different board thicknesses, such as 1/4 inch groove or 3/4 inch thickness? Usually tongue and groove is 1/3 the size. So if you have a 3/4 inch board, you have a 1/4 inch tongue and groove. That's fairly standard, and you can go on either way of that a little bit. Some people do prefer a 3/8 groove and tongue and groove in a 3/4 board. I think that makes the sidewalls just a little bit too weak. I prefer a 1/4 inch, but that's usually the good rule of thumb is 1/3 the board thickness for the tongue size. Starting to get arguments about types, yeah. I do not like the kidney shape keyhole, the kidney shape lever caps. I just don't like those at all. Give me the keyholes. They're far more comfortable, far more easy to work with. But yeah. Just picked up a Stanley 78, looking to upgrade it with modern steel iron. I don't see any blades from Veritas or other modern. I don't know why you would want to upgrade it. This is from Anthony Lesivier. Sorry. Honestly, a lot of people really like to rag on old Stanley. They're great blades, don't worry about it. Especially for something like that where you're really not going to get any quality difference for how little it's actually used. Yeah, I wouldn't mess with upgrading it. I believe, oh, come on. What's his name? Hawk, there we are. Had to look at the iron. I believe Hawk Irons makes one, but I don't know. And the reason most people that they're hard to find is they're generally not wanting to upgrade. So don't worry about it too much. 58. We kind of have time for a couple more here. Is there anyone making reasonable cost replacements for Stanley 45 blades? Yes, Veritas. The ones that they make for their combination plane also work, and those are great. If you want a replacement iron, you can usually buy them on eBay. Well, at least you could. I haven't checked in a year or two. The blades were about $5 a piece, and you could buy the individual ones. Usually, that's what I tell people: if you have the plane, don't look for buying a whole set. You will never use a full set. The full set is worthless, and it will cost you a lot of money. Buy the iron you need, and you can usually pick them up for around $5 a piece. Especially if you go to MWTCA meets. There's usually a guy there that has a tote with hundreds of them, and you can dig through it for $3 or $4 a piece. It was a guy down in Georgia one time. He had an 18-gallon tote full to the brim. It was probably somewhere around 70, 80 pounds of Stanley 45 and 55 irons. And he was selling them for $1 a piece. So yeah, they're out there. You just have to know where to look for them. But you can get the Veritas will also work in there. Yes, I'll be at the MWTCA meet on Thursday. I will not miss Thursday because Thursday, if you have to come to one day, come to Thursday for the tailgate sale. That's where the best deals are. Usually Thursday is the older, more rusted things. They're not quite as collectible, and so the prices tend to be down a little bit. Whereas Friday and Saturday tend to be a little more expensive because they're a little more collectible items. They're the nicer things. So yes, if you can come for one day, come for Thursday. I will be running around then. Cool, I think that's about it for the questions. So if you are going to be able to make it to the MWTCA meet this week, I will also be doing a live on Thursday for the tailgate sale. It will be on this channel, the second channel. And then Friday, I'm going to be doing a live on the inside. And then Saturday, I'm also going to do a live on the main channel. So if you can't come, you can see what all is for sale and what the prices are and that type of thing. So it'll be early in the morning, usually around 8 a.m. on each of those, 8 or 9, sometimes 10 o'clock on the Friday one because it opens up a little bit later. But I will be going through and doing the full live so you can walk along with that. And if you want to see something particular, you can hop on and let me know. So, yes, I think that'll about do it. So if you do have any questions that I didn't get to, feel free to send me an email or message me on that, and I try and answer as many of those as I can. I do want to say a huge thank you for everyone. Hopefully next week Sarah will be here with us so we can do this properly. But I think that'll about do it for now. So until next time, have a wonderful day. And now I've got to walk all the way over there and turn this thing off. So you get to see me for a few more minutes because I'm out of focus. There we go. This is like the walk of shame or the walk of turning off. I don't know what it is, but until next time, bye.